unexplained radio signals, a classified NASA mission, and the hollow moon theory. This is what NASA doesn't want you to know about the moon. The Apollo 11 mission, the first time astronauts landed on the moon. Is there more to the story than what we've been told though? Don't worry, I'm not getting into fake moon landing conspiracies. Instead, I'm talking about something strange that happened on the moon that was never officially publicized. In 1969, Neil Armstrong and lunar module pilot Buzz Aldrin reported receiving these strange radio signals while they were on the moon. The signals were unlike anything they'd encountered before, and NASA has never fully explained what these signals were or what caused them. The astronauts themselves were concerned enough to report the signals, but all we've been given are vague explanations about, quote, space interference or static. But could the signals have been coming from something else? Some believe these signals could have come from extraterrestrials, possibly even a signal that was coming from something on the moon, or some type of craft that was observing the astronauts. No one's been able to definitively figure out where these signals came from. Were they just random radio waves bouncing off space debris, or something more mysterious? NASA has always been pretty dismissive about it, and sure, maybe it was nothing. It's also very possible they just had no explanation. Over the years, there have been tons of photos of the lunar surface taken by the Apollo missions. Well, some folks have pointed out some rather strange things in some of these images, bizarre formations. Images that appear to show what look like pyramids, domes, or even straight lines in the soil. NASA has always insisted these are just optical illusions, products of shadows or rocky outcrops that we just misidentify, but a lot of these formations have sharp angles and their symmetry just seems so precise. It really makes you wonder if they could have been built intentionally. And if that is the case, then what's the deal? Why are they there? Were they built by some ancient civilization that used to live on the moon? That would be pretty cool, definitely something worth looking into. So why hasn't NASA done anything to explore these supposed structures in more detail? Well, maybe there's nothing there, or maybe they're just hiding something from us. Astronomers and conspiracy theorists have pored over Apollo mission photos, and some believe that these structures are evidence of something much larger than what we're being told. But we might find out more in the very near future, with the Artemis 3 mission on the horizon, set to be the first crewed lunar landing since Apollo 17 in 1972. But was Apollo 17 really the last time astronauts set foot on the moon? Next, we have Apollo 20. Wasn't Apollo 20 cancelled? Well, let's explore that for a minute. For decades, there's been a rumor that the Apollo program continued long after Apollo 17. Some conspiracy theorists believe that Apollo 20 actually did happen, and that they allegedly flew to the moon in the late 70s. The mission, of course, wasn't made public. It was a secret operation. But why? Well, because there was something up there that needed to be explored further, but they didn't want to reveal anything to the public in fear of causing panic. Supposedly, during this mission, astronauts were studying evidence of alien contact on the moon. They allegedly discovered this huge abandoned spacecraft and some sort of base or outpost that appeared to be much older than any human structures. The astronauts reportedly even brought back alien artifacts. But the craziest part is that, so the story goes, they also found the bodies of two extraterrestrials in the craft, one of which they dubbed the Mona Lisa. NASA has, of course, never acknowledged this. One of the most popular theories surrounding the moon is that it's hollow. The theory became widely known after the Apollo missions, when astronauts during Apollo 12 dropped a large object onto the surface to test the moon's seismic activity. They reported this strange ringing sound. Apparently the moon rang like a bell for over an hour, as if it were hollow inside. NASA has explained this by claiming that the moon's internal structure is just different from Earth's, to dumb it down significantly, but some people still find this strange. The explanation doesn't really account for the ringing that was recorded. One article from 1970 even described it sounding almost like a gong. So what the hell happened? Could it really be that the moon has a hollow core? There are even conspiracies that the moon was placed there intentionally and is some kind of artificial object. This hollow theory has never been properly investigated, at least not that we know of. But this isn't the only sign that the moon could be hollow, or at least partially hollow. So this is a more recent one. Scientists working with China's Chang'e 4 mission had been studying the far side of the moon, and they found something interesting beneath the surface. Using ground-penetrating radar, they detected strange echoes, as if there were hollowed out sections underground. Now, I don't want to jump to conclusions, but I will make quite a leap here. Does this mean there could be hidden underground structures on the moon? Well, maybe, but what's a lot more likely is that at the very least, there could be tunnels or lava tubes down there, and that's pretty cool because tunnels could be very beneficial for future moon missions. For example, lava tubes could protect astronauts from the moon's extreme temperature swings and radiation from space. On the surface, temperatures fluctuate. During the day, it can be 250 degrees Fahrenheit or 121 Celsius, and at night, it can drop all the way down to minus 280 Fahrenheit or minus 133 Celsius. That's just an unhinged fluctuation in temperature. Underground though, things are a lot more stable. So setting up shop underground would be a much better bet. And if there are already hollowed out sections, much easier. Setting up base in a natural underground structure rather than building everything from scratch is ideal, especially when you're going to transport everything out to, the moon. Imagine lugging a huge drill up into space. Speaking of the hollow moon and hidden structures, a recent paper from Harvard University's Human Flourishing program came out with a pretty wild idea that there might indeed be an alien base hidden on the moon. The study proposed that this base could house spacecraft designed for quick trips to Earth. The idea is that extraterrestrials could be using these ships to come here for research or who knows what else. Now, of course, we've all heard ideas like this before, but it is interesting that this came out of Harvard, not just some random dude on Reddit. The research also ties into the growing number of UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon sightings, that are being reported more lately. With more and more of these reports of strange objects in the sky, the idea that an alien base could be hidden on the moon starts to sound a little less ludicrous. If extraterrestrials are really this close, it could explain why we're seeing so much stuff in the sky these days. Many astronauts have reported seeing strange glowing spots or lights on the surface of the moon. These aren't just simple reflections or optical illusions, but bright, unexplained glows that appear to move or change shape. Some of these glows were reported during Apollo missions, but they've also been seen by people on Earth looking at the moon through powerful telescopes. NASA has mostly dismissed these reports as either solar reflection or lunar gas emissions, but could there be something else going on? The lights are often seen in areas where there shouldn't be any reflective material. And it's especially odd when they show up near particularly large craters, because, maybe there's something built into those craters. So what could these strange glows be? Are they evidence of alien technology? Are people just overthinking things? Go ahead and make fun of me down in the comments. Next up, we have cryptoterrestrials. What on earth is a cryptoterrestrial, you ask? Well, the term was actually coined in that same Harvard paper that I mentioned before. The term cryptoterrestrial is used to describe the beings that could be living on the moon or even right here on Earth. The paper lays out 4 theories about what these cryptoterrestrials might be. The first theory is called human cryptoterrestrials. This one suggests that a super advanced human civilization once existed a long time ago. It was almost entirely wiped out by some kind of disaster, like a massive flood. But some survivors of this ancient civilization might still be around, living secretly among us. Next is the hominid or theropod cryptoterrestrial theory. This is a non-human species, something like a descendant of apes or dinosaurs that evolved to become highly advanced but chose to live in hiding, possibly underground. This idea kind of touches on cryptids like Bigfoot or creatures similar to ancient theropods. The third theory is what's referred to as former extraterrestrial or extratemporal cryptoterrestrials. This is really just a fancy way of describing your standard alien beings who have traveled to Earth from another planet or possibly even another dimension. But there's one more type of cryptoterrestrial, the magical cryptoterrestrial, which is exactly what it sounds like, mystical or magical beings. Not going to get into that in this video, it just doesn't really fit the vibe. One of the craziest theories about the moon is that it isn't natural. I did not come up with this idea on my own. There are some theorists who argue that the moon could be an artificial satellite put into orbit around Earth by some advanced civilization. The theory is based on some strange facts about the moon, mainly its size, its unusual composition, and its position relative to Earth and the sun. The moon is perfectly positioned to cover the sun during an eclipse, and its size in relation to Earth and the sun is so precise that it seems, to some, too perfect to be a coincidence. These folks argue that the moon's perfect balance in the sky is proof that it must have been placed there intentionally, and the fact that the moon has such a mysterious composition different from Earth's in ways that don't seem to make much sense also adds to this. Now, I don't find this one very convincing. I mean, sure, it's amazing that the moon is so perfectly placed and all, but we only think it's perfect because everything we know revolves around what is, if that makes sense. Yes, life would be drastically different on Earth if there was no moon, but the universe is vast, possibly endless, so the range of possibilities for the placement of planets and moons, it just makes it mathematically likely that there would be a planet with a moon and sun like ours. But I mean, hey, is it possible it's artificial? I guess, sure. And finally, we have the secret footage. During the Apollo 11 mission, astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin made history, becoming the first humans to walk on the moon. But some conspiracy theorists believe that NASA is hiding footage of the mission. Footage that's never been shown to the public. But why? Well, the idea is that this footage contains evidence of alien activity on the moon, or strange structures that were spotted in the background and then quickly cut from the televised feed. NASA has acknowledged that much of the original Apollo 11 footage was recorded over because of a tape shortage, but many people are skeptical. Why were the tapes of the most significant event in human history just erased? Some think that the supposed lost footage could have contained something that was too shocking for the public at the time. Could it be that the astronauts captured something extraterrestrial during their time on the moon, something that NASA is still trying to keep quiet? Let us know your thoughts down below. I've been your host, James, and I'll catch you, yes you specifically, in the next video.